Hi, I'm Carina Leeson with the Kendrick Law Group Family Division, and I've been bringing you a series of webinar videos talking about some different topics that have been related to the divorce process and specifically during COVID-19. And I am honored today to have with me today Dr. Miriam Hull. She is a fully licensed psychologist and recognized authority in the areas of team building, communication, leadership, board development, change management, strategic planning, time and stress management, coaching, and personality insights. Also known as Dr. Mimi, she is currently featured on local news and radio stations here in Orlando regarding workplace issues. She is also well known for her human resources and corporate couch articles and her sole authorship section on assessment in the Encyclopedia of Human Resource Management. Dr. Mimi earned her doctorate in counseling psychology with a doctoral minor in management. She holds many assessment certifications and licenses, including Myers-Briggs, DISC, CCL, 2020 Organizational, and 360 Survey Systems. Dr. Mimi is very active in the Central Florida community, serving on various boards, and has won awards for her service. She currently serves on the Board of Trustees for the Orlando Regional Chamber, Aspire Health Partners, and is the past president of the Junior League of Greater Orlando. Dr. Mimi has also been involved with trainings with our local Orange County Bar Association, as well as the Florida Bar. Dr. Mimi, welcome. So happy to see you today.
I'm delighted to be here. Thank you for having me.
Recently, I saw you on the news talking about COVID fatigue, and I was so intrigued by the term because I think everybody is feeling COVID fatigue. Can you share with me a little bit about, what COVID fatigue is?
It's the stress that we feel because of the COVID virus. And, when we talk about stress, we usually say, well, there's intense stress. And what I mean by that is the stress that comes on quickly and you see an end to it. You know what's going to happen. And then there's prolonged stress where it stays on and you don't see a sign of relief. And we've had a combination of both of these with the COVID thing. We kept thinking, oh, it's going to be over by July. Well, it's not. And here we are in August and we don't know when it's going to end. And so these have long-term effects on our being. And I oftentimes say it's kind of the invisible disaster for many people. It's not something you saw. It wasn't a car accident. It wasn't a fire. But it's around you, but yet you don't really are feeling it personally. So it's sort of a questionable thing, but you're still having to live with it. So That's a large part of what it is. And so many stresses around that.
This has been going on since middle of March. And beginning of March, I think, is when Governor DeSantis declared a state of emergency as a result of the pandemic. And you're right, it's been this just long lasting with no end in sight. What are some of the symptoms that might be related to COVID fatigue that might alert someone, hey, this is affecting me?
Yeah. One of the biggest symptoms is that people are getting cranky on that. Their fuse is a lot shorter. They get angrier quicker. They literally are tired quicker too.
Right.
They oftentimes will find themselves sitting in front of the TV, watching things that have no idea at the end of the 30 minutes what they just saw, but they're there. Maybe overeating or undereating, depending on your lifestyle. Abuse, and what I mean by abuse, we're talking in terms of alcohol abuse, possibly drug abuse, and abusing of each other, the other people that are in your household that you're having to deal with, as well as people at work that you don't really get to see, but you have to depend on in many ways as well. So those are just some of the many symptoms that are there.
Yeah, and that's really tough. A lot of folks have been stuck in the house together, quarantining, and we'll get to that implications in the divorce world in a minute. But I know you deal with a lot of workplace issues, and now that we are working where we live, and in some cases educating our children, what advice can you give us to deal with our new virtual working environments?
One of the things that I want to say to people is to start to separate your work environment from your home environment. And there's a lot of little tricks that you can do to make that happen. I was talking with one person, and one of the suggestions that I came up with is that to go out the front door and come in the back door. And what I mean by that is go to work. Leave your house, come back. One of the things that we should be doing also is more exercise. So when you're at the end of work or you're taking a break, to go out the front door, walk around the block, come in the back door. So do things that will give you exercise and will create a separation between the work life and the home life. The other part of it is to touch base with your fellow employees, even if you don't have to, so that you have an opportunity to talk with them and see how they're feeling, and to give them an attaboy or give them a pat on the back and thank them for some things, because we can feel very lonely and we can also feel very unappreciated during this time.
Yeah, and I think isolation is definitely something that people are feeling, and they're some people I think are getting comfortable with it,
Yeah.
but at the same time, that's not necessarily the best way for us to be existing in this new normal, as everybody seems to be calling it. Now, what about some tips on the employer side, Dr. Mimi, about how employers should be managing this COVID fatigue that maybe either themselves as running the business, or their employees suffering from this potentially?
People want to feel in on things. And so one of the things that an employer can do is to share their ideas of what's happening, to let people know how the business is going. When we don't know something, we tend to go to the negative. And so sometimes, let's say the boss says to the employee, we'll talk on Monday, and it's Friday afternoon. What you've effectively done is ruin their weekend. And you don't know what they're expecting on Monday. So be positive. Take time to call your employee and thank them for what they're doing. Take time to call them and say, what do you need help with? Allow them to say, I'm overloaded. Allow them to say, I'm tired. Allow them to just vent some of their feelings so that they can know what other people are feeling as well. And you can be a little bit more sympathetic and empathetic with them.
Absolutely. I think patience and gratitude goes a long way these days, for sure.
It really does.
And I have to tell you, I deal with divorcing clients, and they're already under a lot of stress, whether it's a result of a pending or a contemplated divorce, because of everything that's been going on for the past several months.
Yes.
What are some tips maybe for them to combat COVID fatigue, or are they pretty much the same?
There are a lot of the same things, but I think one of the things you've got to be very, very careful with, particularly if they're children, is the fact that you don't take it out on them or use them as a pawn or use them as a weapon between the two spouses. I think that's a very important piece. It's not the kid's fault. And we have to always remind them that, because most children going through divorce still think, if I was better, maybe this wouldn't be happening. And so you've got to really make sure that you love on those kids and take time to be with them, and do the same thing with your divorced spouse. Try to remember some of those things that you liked about them. It wasn't all bad, and it wasn't all bad forever. So what can you do to bridge the gap? Find something good that they're doing and thank them as well. As you start to look at the educating of your children, how are you going to break that up? What are you going to do? What am I going to do? What can I do when I'm stressed? How will I relieve your stress? You're going through a divorce, but that doesn't really mean that it's the end of the relationship. So how can you make it work as you move forward?
Right. And such important things to keep in mind. I know in my work as a collaborative law attorney and a family law mediator, I certainly try to find those areas of common ground that will help the divorcing spouses have a neutral meeting place, mentally at least, where they can really address those important issues, especially about their children, and focus less on the past and focus more on the future. I think those are really important things.
Those are very important. And I think that's important for everybody. We can spend a lot of time regretting the past, but we can't change that. What we can do is start to say, what am I going to do moving forward? What can I do even better? How can I make things work? It's instead of saying, oh my gosh, look at all the things you've done to me.
Right.
But rather, what can we do as we move forward is a real important issue to make happen.
Well, Dr. Mimi, thank you so much. I think that we're going to be dealing with some COVID fatigue for a few months to come, unfortunately. Hopefully it will end at some point sooner rather than later, but I think it's here to stay for a while. So I do appreciate you giving us a little bit of explanation about what this is and some tips how we can manage, keep everybody safe mentally. I think mental health is very important these days.
It is truly important. Thank you.
Yes. Dr. Mimi, if folks who are watching would like to get in touch with you to either be a keynote speaker, maybe do some team building, strategic planning, board development, coaching, or check out one of your corporate couch articles, what's the best way to get in touch with you?
There's a number of different ways. Probably the best way is to send me an email, which is drmimi@hullonline.com. Let me spell it fast. It's DRMIMI at Hull, KUWKLG.com. And then, you know, the good old phone is great as well. It's 407-628-0669. And you don't hesitate to text me on my cell, which is 321-331-6166. Love to hear from you.
Thank you, Dr. Mimi, and for being so accessible to our viewers. We really appreciate it. And if you have any questions regarding a divorce or the collaborative law process, or just general questions for information that you may need about your family law matters, please contact me. Again, I'm Carina at the Kendrick Law Group, and you can email me at carina@kendricklawgroup.com. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Dr. Mimi.